Good morning, Uptown Kids. Welcome to church this morning. I hope you all had a great week. Today, we're going to learn all about different stories within the Old Testament. Now, the Bible is split into two parts, the Old and the New Testament. The Old Testament is all about before Jesus' time, and the New Testament is about Jesus' life and all that he came to do. This week's Bible verse is Psalm 33:4. The word of the Lord is good and true. Let's do that one more time together. The word of the Lord is good and true. Psalm 33:4. Great job, you guys. Let's head on over to Talia to praise and worship our God today.
Good morning, Uptown Kids. I'm so excited to be with you again for another week of worship and crafts and stories and all the fun stuff. So let's just jump right in. Let's start with our theme song. It's called This Little Light of Mine. If you've watched this before, you know the actions. You're a professional. So let's do them together. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All around the neighborhood, I'm gonna let it shine. All around the neighborhood, I'm gonna let it shine. All around the neighborhood, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All right, here we go. Hide it under a bushel, no, I'm gonna let it shine. Hide it under a bushel, no, I'm gonna let it shine. Hide it under a bushel, no, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All right, this little light. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Great job, guys. Don't go anywhere. I'll be back at the end to do another song with you.
Hey, Katie Lynn, you want to play a game? I would love to play a game. Can the kids play with us?
Absolutely. Let's do a treasure hunt.
Ooh, fun.
Okay, Katie Lynn, what's your favorite color?
Probably red.
Okay, kids and Katie Lynn, let's take 10 seconds and find something that's red. Ready? Go! 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You did it!
I found an apple.
An apple, that's red, perfect. Kids, what did you find? Perfect, you did so good. Should we do one more?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, let's do one more. Okay, how about let's do something that is yellow. Ready? 10 seconds. Okay, ready? Go! 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Uh-oh. Katie Lynn, you didn't find anything.
Yeah, I did.
You did?
Yeah, because you're yellow.
Oh, I am yellow. Kids, what did you find? Very good. All right, let's go to Rebecca and learn about our story.
Thank you, Katie Lynn. Good morning, kiddos. Welcome back to Reading Time with me. Today's story is going to be a little different than our other stories. This one plays more like a game. So we're reading about people of the Old Testament. And I don't know if you know this, but there are a lot of people in the Old Testament. So, as I'm reading the stories, it's going to give you hints, and at the end, I'm going to give you a little time to guess who you think the story was about. So, are you guys ready to play a game? Let's get reading. People of the Old Testament. All right, our first character is the first man on earth. After God had made the earth, the heavens, and the seas, he turned the darkness into light and put forth plants and trees. He made the birds, the fish, and beasts according to his plan, and then in his own image he created the first man. You'll find his name in Genesis, in case you didn't know. Now see if you can guess it on the dotted line below. If you guessed Adam, you're right. Our second character is the first woman on earth. Adam was a lonely man, so God made him a wife. Because she was the first, she's called the mother of all life. Now Cain and Abel were her sons, and so all generations began with this first woman who gave birth to future nations. Look up her name in Genesis, the Bible we believe, and then you'll know what she was called. Her name was simply Eve. Our next character is the Ark Builder. Once there was a godly man who lived so long ago. You can read about his life in Genesis, you know. God said to him, "Now build an ark, then when it's done go find each animal and bird, then bring a pair of every kind." When they were safely in the ark, a flooding rain began, and lasted 40 days and nights according to God's plan. Now when the rains had ended and the sun began to shine, a dove was sent out from the ark which carried back a sign. An olive branch proclaimed dry land, and so this family knew that they could leave the ark quite soon with all the creatures too. They waited very patiently until God spoke the word, "Go forth upon the earth and bring each animal and bird." Upon a mount called Ararat they offered thanks and prayer to God who saved them from the flood with his great love and care. I'm sure by now you guessed the name of this old patriarch who listened to the word of God and built a mighty ark. If you said Noah, you're right. Our next one is the father of believers. 4,000 years ago there lived a faithful patriarch. Did you know he descended from the man who built the ark? He herded cattle, sheep, and goats owned by his father Terah. Then later on he took a wife. We know her name was Sarah. God blessed them with an only son when they were very old. Then with this child God tested him. In Genesis it's told. God asked this man to sacrifice this dear beloved son. But then God stopped him just in time before it could be done. Who was this founding father of the faith we know today? I'll give you one more little clue. His name begins with A. All right, the answer is Abraham. Our next is Jacob's favorite son. Jacob had a dozen sons, but one he favored more. He gave this one a long-sleeved robe, short sleeves the others wore. His jealous brothers sold him down to Egypt as a slave, but still in spite of what they did, his brothers he forgave. Their plot against his favored son was mean and sinister, but this young lad in time became the Pharaoh's minister. He saved the land from famine by interpreting a dream, and in the eyes of Pharaoh won great honor and esteem. He gave to all his relatives, his father Jacob too, the best of land in Goshen, where in peace their families grew. Who was the son of Jacob whom all Israel proclaimed to be their great and good protector? In Genesis he's named Joseph. All right, our next character is the leader of the Israelites. In Egypt many years ago, God chose a Hebrew man to free the Israelites and lead them to the promised land. Upon a mount called Sinai, this man was filled with awe, because God spoke in thunder as he handed down his law. His journey starts in Exodus. Let's see if you can trace the steps of this great leader whom the Lord knew face to face. All right, say your guess. If you guessed Moses, you're right. Our next character is Israel's greatest warrior. When Moses was quite old and frail, he chose another man to lead the Israelites into the long-sought promised land. They had to conquer Jericho. God told them what to do. So 7 times they marched around the great stone walls and blew their trumpets. Then the walls fell down. The city now was theirs. They celebrated joyously with victory songs and prayers. Who was his greatest warrior, who fought with just a sword and conquered the land God promised them because he listened to the Lord? His name was Joshua. Congratulations. All right, Our next one is Superman of the Old Testament. Among God's people there was born a man who took great care not to lose his super strength by cutting his long hair. He killed a lion with his hands and fought the Philistines, defeated them each time they tried to trap him with their schemes. But once he told Delilah that his strength came from his hair, she quickly snipped his 7 locks while he was unaware. The Philistines then captured him and took away his sight, but then his hair grew back again along with his great might. Now though he was a prisoner and sadly could not see, he toppled their great temple in a final victory. Who was this mighty Israelite whose strength earned him his fame? Within the book of Judges, you will surely find his name. All right, who do you guess? His name was Samson. Our next character is a loyal daughter-in-law. Once there was a widow who showed love and loyalty to her widowed mother-in-law who met with poverty. Now they had lived in Moab, but her mother-in-law was from the land of Judah where they went, a trip quite wearisome. A stranger to this land, she gleaned the barley fields for food, and through her dedication found her happiness renewed. Their story is in the Bible, and in it you'll find the truth. Naomi was the mother-in-law, the daughter-in-law was Ruth. Good job. All right, let's see if you guys can guess the first king of Israel. When all the tribes of Israel were split and quarreling, they asked the prophet Samuel, "Would you appoint a king?" A young and wealthy farmer was the king whom Samuel chose. Then with his warriors he fought the Philistines, their foes. He ruled for many years, then died upon a battleground, this mighty king of Israel whom Samuel had found. They say he was a handsome man and stood so very tall. Now see if you can guess his name. Of course, he was King Saul. All right, let's guess the second king of Israel. A man called Jesse had 8 sons. The youngest grew to fame as a shepherd boy who had uncommonly good aim. He killed Goliath with a stone, then slung from his shepherd's sling. And when he grew to manhood, he became a famous king. He left to us the book of Psalms. He sang to praise the Lord, the second king of Israel, whom everyone adored. When he was very old, he died, a rich and honored man. Let's see if you can guess his name. By now, I'm sure you can. His name was David. The third king of Israel. The third king during the golden age of Israel was wise, and in Jerusalem he built a temple of vast size. The country greatly prospered during his 40-year-long reign. For culture, trade, and industry he managed to maintain. Who was the son of David who inherited the throne? I'm sure that you can guess his name. He really is well known. His name was King Solomon. Now, can you guys guess who was swallowed by a fish? God sent a giant fish to save a frightened, drowning man. This man was swallowed by the fish, according to God's plan. 3 days went by, and then he was spit out upon the beach, so he could go to Nineveh to testify and preach. Now, who was swallowed by the fish, but lived to teach God's way? We find his story in the Bible. His name begins with J. His name was Jonah. Our next character is a fearless prophet. Long ago, a man was cast into a lion's den by his enemies, who were a group of jealous men. Because he had great faith in God, these animals he braved, and by the power of the Lord surprisingly was saved. Who was this fearless prophet who showed faith through bravery? His book is in the Holy Bible. His name begins with D. His name was Daniel. Good job, guys. Thanks for playing this game with me.
Hello everyone and welcome back to crafts. Today we're going to be making a craft. It's fairly easy. All you'll need is some painter's tape. You can use Scotch tape too, that will work. And some markers, crayons, pencil crayons, whatever you have. And then just a piece of paper. You can do any color. I'm going to use white just so my colors show up a little bit easier. So the first thing you're going to do is grab your tape and you're going to get a long piece here. Not quite the length of the piece of paper, but long enough. You're going to put it right down the middle. And then you're going to make a shorter piece. So we're going to make a cross. If you need help, you can ask your parents to help you. Or if you can do it yourself, go ahead. All right, so then once you have your cross on your page, you're just going to color everything around it. And then when we're done, we'll be able to see the cross outline in the middle. All right, so once you have your picture colored, whatever designs, colors you want, then you'll just carefully peel the tape back and it'll reveal your cross. You got some nice clean lines. Oh, there we go. And we're done. Thanks for joining us for crafts this week. See you next time.
It was so good to learn all the different stories of the Old Testament and to do crafts with Melissa. Beacon, what was your favorite story?
My favorite story was Moses because he let everyone into the promised land.
My favorite story was probably Ruth. What was your favorite? I love that story too. Let's head on over to Talia for one last song.
Welcome back, you guys. You did so awesome on our first song. We're going to do something a little bit different this week. I asked my friend Samantha to record a new song for us called One Way. So she's going to be playing the guitar and singing for us, and I'm going to do some actions for you. I'm not going to go over all of them because there's a lot of them, and they can be a little bit tricky sometimes, but try your best. We're going to do this one again next week, so don't worry if you don't get them all right. We're going to come back to them, okay? So it's called One Way. So try with me. Try to follow along.
Down at your feet, you're the only one I need. I turn to you and you are always there. In troubled times it's you I see. I put you first, that's all I need. I humble all I am, all to you.
Here we go.
One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. You were always, always there, every how and everywhere. Your grace is found so deeply within me.
Doing so good.
You will never ever change. Yesterday, today, the same. Forever till forever meets no end.
Here we go.
One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. You are the way, the truth, and the life. We live by faith and not by sight for you. We're living all for you.
Doing so good.
You are the way, the truth, and the life. We live by faith and not by sight for you.
One more time.
You are the way, the truth, and the life. We live by faith and not by sight. For you, we're living all for you. You are the way, the truth, and the life. We live by faith and not by sight. For you, we're living all for you. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for.
Awesome job, you guys. You did such a great job. I know there was a lot of actions there. You did such a good job trying to follow along. I loved getting to see you worship. I will be back next week to teach you some new songs, and we'll do some old ones again. See you next week.
Welcome back, Uptown Kids. I had such a fun time today, and I can't wait to do it again next week. Before we head out, let's say our Bible verse one more time. It's Psalm 33:4. The word of the Lord is good and true. What is it? It's good and true. That's right. See you next week, guys. Bye.